I can't believe someone has the guts to blackmail. What exactly happened to Han Li during this period? It turns out Han Li encountered a certain blue-haired woman in Jinxi. This woman had once fought fiercely against him. This saintess even brought along several Huiyang cultivators. They chased him all the way here. To confirm that the person in front of him was indeed Han Li, he used a divine stone to investigate. Fortunately, the great deity covered up the past with a secretary. The woman could only feel relieved to leave. But in a corner somewhere, someone actually used the secretary to see through Han Li. They used this as leverage. Han Li furrowed his brows slightly, glancing at the other person's screen. His expression fluctuated as he pondered. It seems that if I don't give my friends some benefits, there will indeed be some trouble. I just don't know what kind of treasure they want. After pretending to be generous, Han Li's expression returned to normal. He calmly said, "That's more like it. I'm just seeking wealth, nothing more. I have no intention of fighting to the death with you. I'm not picky about anything. If you could just give me a few ancient artifacts, I would be more than satisfied." The old man was overjoyed to hear this. He quickly replied. The other party's greed made Han Li's brow twitch involuntarily. With a gloomy expression, he reached out to touch the storage bag. He flipped his palm over. Instantly, a golden and silver light orb appeared in his palm. Inside, there was a faintly visible ball about the size of an egg. A few ancient castles. Your appetite is too big, my friend. There are no other castles. This cloud pearl was something I stumbled upon years ago. It's not very suitable for me due to my cultivation method. You can take it with you. Don't be too greedy. Be careful not to burst yourself, Han Limai said angrily. At the same time, she flicked her wrist. The orb shot straight towards the old man with a fierce gaze. The old man's expression changed, but after a brief flash of his eyes, he didn't reach out to catch the treasure directly. Instead, he tossed the insect-like beast beside him. His embroidered robe suddenly flared. A burst of dark light shot out from his sleeve. It instantly enveloped the golden and silver orb. After a moment, seeing that the orb showed no unusual signs, he cautiously pulled it closer through the light. This thing looks a bit peculiar. It certainly doesn't resemble an ordinary treasure. I wonder what kind of divine effect it has. The old man used a divine stone to connect to the insect-like beast beside him, sensing the orb in front of him. It's not an illusion. There's no aura of a magical artifact within it either. When the memory heart has faded significantly, I reached out and pulled the sphere into my hand. Upon closer inspection, Nan asked what this treasure could do. It's better for you to perform the ceremony yourself, my friend. I can guarantee you, it will definitely surprise you. With honeyed hands, I shrug. I said lightly, this path too. But upon seeing the ancient castle, I wanted to strike it down. Don't you think this is a bit childish, my friend? The old man, slightly excited, tried to channel his magic into the sphere, while still greedily hoping to extort more benefits. Not having seen this scene yet, the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a hint of barely concealed mockery. Yeah, it is a bit childish. How about this then? I suggest we part ways here, my friend, he suddenly said coldly. The old man was taken aback. Before he could react, his internal magic suddenly surged into the sphere in his hand. With a soft bang, the sphere exploded. In a flash of spiritual light, dozens of beetles emerged. This is one of the few three-colored golden beetles preserved in the Han calendar. As soon as Lin Chongfang appeared, he spread his wings blindly. At the same time, he pounced fiercely at the old man. At such a close distance, the old man had no time to dodge. A fleeting thought of danger flashed through his mind. The golden beetle dove straight onto the old man's face. Its numerous large jaws began to tear at him. If it weren't for the protective barrier he had, he would have been completely disfigured in that moment. With so many spirit-eating insects swarming over him, his eyes couldn't even focus. The old man, filled with shock and anger, instinctively used both hands, desperately clawing at his face as the black light flickered. He wanted to swat these strange bugs away. At the same time, he inhaled deeply, ready to open his mouth, to let out a thunderous laugh, hoping to attract other cultivators. But just then, a bone-chilling cold sound echoed in his ears. Although the sound was not loud, as soon as it reached his ears, a tearing pain suddenly shot through him. The old man's body convulsed, and he couldn't help but let out a terrible scream. The laugh that was just about to escape his lips was abruptly cut off. The old man felt a surge of dread in his heart, just as he was about to recklessly leap into the air. Just as he was about to leap into the air without a care. In the next moment, the intense pain in the divine stone suddenly vanished. The beetle that had clung to his face for years also took to the skies. His eyes brightened instantly. He actually regained his senses. But at the same time, a sword wrapped in purple swallows suddenly appeared before the old man. it charged down for a direct attack. The old man let out a low roar. He didn't even have time to unleash his treasures, or use any escape techniques. He could only pour all his spiritual power into the light before him, hoping to block this strike first. Filled with anger, he had already realized that this guy who claimed to be a wanderer from overseas had murderous intent from the very beginning. There was not a shred of thought about avoiding disaster. While his heart burned with rage, he couldn't help but regret provoking this person. Fortunately, his yellow wooden shield was a hard-earned ancient artifact with astonishing defensive power. Even if the opponent was in the mid-stage of cultivation, he should be able to withstand this strike without issue. Just as the old man's thoughts turned, a light sound echoed. As the yellow light and the golden sword made contact, it was surprisingly sliced in half like tofu. Then, the golden sword continued to fall without stopping. He was unexpectedly split in half like tofu. Then the golden sword fell, knowledge pouring down. A flash of golden light from the letters. The old man's body suddenly split into two halves and fell to the sides. At the same time, a black baby, about an inch tall, stood frozen in fear at a distance, encased directly in a mass of purple ice. Unable to move, the golden sword spun around and struck swiftly, turning the beast that had lost its master into a rain of blood with a single slash. Then it flew once again above the child soldier. With a thunderous sound, a large golden lake shot out from the sword, transforming into a delicate electric net, illuminating the vowel within. The booming sound continued. The child soldier, along with the vowel inside, vanished into thin air in the golden light. At this moment, Hanli's expression relaxed slightly, but his movements didn't pause at all. He reached back towards the old man's body, and the storage bag at his waist flew into his hand. At the same time, the fist-sized crimson fireballs shot out from the sleeve of his other arm, turning the old man and the beast's corpse into nothingness. Following that, Hanli soared into the air without hesitation. After a few flashes of clear light, he vanished like a ghost in the sky. Just a quarter of an hour later, -1 streaks of color each like a stunning swan suddenly appeared in the sky above. After a spiral, Donghua fell to the ground, along with 5 others. It was Lin Yinping, Jie Tianhao and 3 others, and another unfamiliar young man, who was quite simple. The auto repair shop is right here. Good. The humid air vanished right here. The young man held a law plate in his hands, and said with a worried face, "There is indeed some residual spiritual energy fluctuation here. And there's the aura of that person with the surname Li. There are also some blood stains here. It seems your master has been silenced." Jie Tianhao scanned the area, and his gaze landed on a spot of red on the ground. He said darkly, "Impossible. Although Master Jia is slightly weaker than that scoundrel, how could he not even have a chance to escape and call for help?" The young man's face turned pale. He said with a look of despair, "What do you know? Don't just say one reason. In the early stages of cultivation, that person has indeed killed a ruthless character from the same street. Your master was caught off guard and was killed by this person. It's not surprising at all. But how did old Z actually talk to you? The teacher will explain it to us again in detail." Jie Tianhao let out a cold snort. He replied in a rather unfriendly tone. At that moment, Lin Yinping released the divine stone. He quickly searched the area. Suddenly, he twisted his waist and swayed. In an instant, he appeared several meters away. He reached down to pick something up from the ground and examined it closely. His expression suddenly turned grim. He didn't say much about family matters. He simply handed over the life-saving talisman to his junior, and agreed that if anything unusual happened with the talisman, or if he didn't return after a certain time, he would immediately inform the elders about the situation, to ensure they could rescue him from danger in time. The young man said earnestly, "For example, the film crew must have run into trouble. Is this something your master used?" Lin Yinping waved his hand from the castle. An object shot directly towards the young man. The young man instinctively reached out to catch it. After looking at it, he felt a sense of clarity in his heart. It was a small piece of yellow wood. It shimmered with a familiar and faint spiritual light. It was indeed a fragment of the old man's wooden talisman. This was from the wooden shield of Jiasamu Kui. This is on the shield of the Jishamu Kui. This shield is exceptionally sturdy. Its defensive power is truly astonishing. How could it be destroyed? The young man's complexion has turned even paler. It seems that Elder Z has already passed away. I initially didn't believe your words. I doubted that person really wore a veil, at the same level of cultivation. But now it seems, this person is even more formidable than expected. Although Elder Z was only at the early stage of Yuanying, he was exceptionally skilled in the art of tree concealment. It's clear that he didn't even have time to call for help before being eliminated. This shows that this person's abilities are already on par with the late stage. Just a few of us probably can't take this person down. Zhetianhao couldn't be bothered with the young man. He just said gravely to the blue sky Sanus, since Gui Luofan has fallen into this person's hands, your sex master is likely to have met his end at this person's hands as well. Lin Yinping raised his eyebrows and slowly said, "Ha ha, killing our elder from the Luo sect, and seizing our treasure, even if he isn't at the late stage, we will never let this person go. But this person seems to be connected to your blue sky prairie. Don't say he isn't the reason for the later modifications. Even if it's true, our sect will never let this person go. But this person seems to be connected to your sky blue prairie. The grudge remains unresolved. Otherwise, as a holy maiden of a different race, Lin Dao, you wouldn't have stayed with us in the Great Jin for so many years." Zhetianhao chuckled knowingly and said, "As long as we can eliminate this person, I can add an extra 20% to the conditions. The temple originally promised your sect. However, we must first select a treasure from this person." After Lin Yinping's red lips quirked slightly, she suddenly smiled and said, 30% for the kill. With such a formidable enhancement, our sect still doesn't know how many people we might lose. As for the treasure, our sect originally agreed to your store's terms, so there won't be any changes. Zhetianhao said without hesitation, "Our store can agree to this condition." Lin Yinping just casually acknowledged it, and readily agreed. "Very well. I trust that as a holy maiden of the Tu Wu, you wouldn't do anything rash." The fifth junior brother immediately sent a message to gather all the elders and disciples of our sect, who are in the capital, to search for this person with all our might. Since this person attended the auction, they will definitely participate. This is our best chance to capture them, but everything must be done in secret. Don't attract the attention of other sects. DJ disciples must not engage with this person. If the elders haven't gathered together, we shouldn't act rashly to take this person down. Actually, it's best to lure him in and strike together during the true law meeting. Zhetianhao turned around. He asked another disciple, who was affected by Luo Zongnan, whether he should report this to Sect Master Fang. After all, the fourth elder was sent out by him to deal with Yun Luo. This Nengshu asked, since last time, the plan to repair the ghost tower was only half completed, and there was also the issue with the fourth elder. Sect Master Fang has already expressed his dissatisfaction to the Grand Elder. I heard he's currently in seclusion. We're finding a powerful treasure. Even if he rushes over now, he won't make it in time for the auction. However, Dao can send him a sound transmission first. If we don't capture this person this time, Dao can rely on their faction's manpower to deal with that person together. After hesitating for a moment, Zhetianhao nodded. So after discussing carefully, the group immediately activated their shield light and left the place. Several people immediately raised their shields and left the area, of course, to avoid causing a stir among mortals. After they ascended into the sky, they immediately concealed their figures. Although there are rules against modifying flight, major sects like the Yingluo sect completely disregard such restrictions. At the same time, Hanli was walking on a less crowded street over 20 miles away, using a divine stone to probe the small old man's storage bag. There were quite a few miscellaneous items inside. It really took some effort to discern them. Suddenly, he paused in his steps. A hint of surprise appeared on Han Li's face. What did he discover? The big-eyed spirit lazily transmitted, "What is this?" It seemed like it had never seen it before. Han Li flipped his hand, and a slender jade bottle, about 7 inches tall, appeared in his palm. It was entirely emerald green, exquisitely crafted. He reached out and gently stroked the neck of the bottle with a finger. A chilling sensation, like that of a guzheng, transmitted from his fingertip. A hint of delight flashed across Han Li's face. He then cradled the small bottle in one hand and gently shook it. A faint sound of liquid flowing could be heard from inside. Han Li raised an eyebrow. Could it be something like forest leaves inside? However, the liquid in this bottle seemed a bit strange. Could it be that there's something like forest leaves inside? However, the liquid in this bottle is a bit strange, since even the divine stone has penetrated it. Han Di stared intently at the small vial, whispering to herself. She wondered what it was. Once we go back, we can carefully identify it and find out. This is a street for mortals. But don't panic, just open it. We don't want to stir up any trouble, the big-eyed deity warned. I naturally know that. Han Li subtly flicked her wrist. The small vial instantly vanished from her hand without a trace. Han, since you've revealed your identity, you need to be extra careful when entering the capital from now on. Lin Luo and Tiaolan, the Sanus won't let you off easily. They probably guessed you would participate in the auction. It's fine. I don't believe there's anyone else in the capital who can see through illusions. As long as we try to avoid the reasons for entering the capital, There shouldn't be any major issues later. This time, the auction is the only way to gather the necessary materials. Even if it's a bit dangerous, we still have to take the risk. It seems Hanli has already considered this matter. That's true. However, since this time is for collecting materials for the puppet, if there really is danger, the old woman will have the courage to fight like just now, using the spirit of the big-eyed corner to pierce through. The divine power will lend you a helping hand, the big-eyed spirit said lightly. Thank you, senior. With such words from the senior, the junior can rest assured. Hanli felt a surge of joy and returned an hour later. Hanli slowly slipped back to the dojo like a mortal. After chatting leisurely with the official for a while, he casually walked back into the room. After casually setting up several temporary arrays around the room, Hanli then took out the green bottle again. He placed it in front of him and carefully examined it once more. After half a moment, he raised one hand and grasped the cap of the jade bottle. As the spiritual light flickered, the cap was easily pulled off. Suddenly, a cold light shot out from the bottle, and at the same time, the temperature in the entire room dropped sharply. With Hanli's level of cultivation, even the cold aura from the cold palace of the purple fire made him shiver involuntarily under the flash of the cold light. Hanli was taken aback, and a layer of purple smoke silently emerged. When the cold light touched it, it was immediately repelled outside by the purple smoke, and the entire room, where the cold light swept through, instantly, it was repelled by the purple swallow outside, and the entire room was swept by the cold light. A thick layer of ice formed directly, and inside the room, several layers of barriers had already been set up. The chill probably seeped out into the outside. It seems, this cold light, although not as fierce as the purple fire, has a level of coldness that seems to be not far from the previous blue ice flame. What the hell is this? Hanli, very interested, wrapped his palm with the purple swallow. Gripping the small bottle tightly, he shook it gently again. Instantly, another burst of cold light shot out from the bottle's mouth. He witnessed this cold light spreading in midair, making the room even colder by 3 points, finally moving the small bottle closer to his eyes. With a quick glance, his pupils flashed with blue light. Through the white mist of cold air, there seemed to be a dazzling fluorescent glow flickering in the bottle. It looks like if you pour a drop out of the bottle and carefully catch it with a jade plate, I can take a closer look. The voice of the great deity suddenly became a bit excited. Hanli's heart stirred. Without saying a word, he took out a palm-sized jade plate from his storage bag. With the other hand, he tightened his grip on the small bottle. His wrist gave a slight shake. A drop of silver liquid steadily dripped from the bottle's mouth. After making a crisp, pleasant sound, it fell into the dish. It surprisingly transformed into a silver bead the size of a grain of rice. It rolled around in the dish without stopping. It was quite a sight. To my surprise, this silver bead itself emitted no chill whatsoever. It looked completely ordinary. Indeed, I was right. It truly is the cold water that can only be nurtured in the eternal ice rain. The big-eyed deity sighed. He slowly said, I've heard of the eternal ice rain, but what exactly is cold water? It seemed to be something quite precious. He asked with a hint of curiosity. Cold water is essentially one of our most commonly used materials for alchemy and energy refinement. It's a type of jade marrow. However, this jade marrow only grows within the eternal dark jade. Ordinary people have no chance of obtaining it. If I remember correctly, this item seems to only exist in a small bottle owned by the Northleaf Little Jigong in the northwest of the Great Jin. It's passed down as a treasured mountain protector. Besides that, I've never heard of anywhere else producing such a thing. By the way, what about that snow crystal bead you've already refined? Besides that, there hasn't been any news of where this item originated. By the way, that snow crystal bead you've already refined, it's actually made from the eternal black jade. The great deity responded. He said calmly, so rare. This thing must have some special properties, right? Hanli stared at the silver pearl in the jade butterfly. With a flicker of her eyes, she asked, it's more than just a little special. This kind of thing is fine for us to refine. Most just use it as a material for crafting artifacts. It's a top-tier auxiliary material for pills. But if it falls into the hands of the demon clan, they would risk everything to devour it. This is the essence of a demon beast. It's an excellent life-saving item during the Transformation Thunder Tribulation. The great deity returned to the demon clan's Transformation Thunder Tribulation. Even though Hanli was somewhat prepared, she couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. There are countless high-level demon beasts in this world, but those that reach level 7 and safely pass the Transformation Tribulation are extremely few. After all, the power of heavenly thunder inherently restrains most demon beasts. For them, the Thunder Tribulation is almost like a death tribulation. And for a demon beast to pass the tribulation, it first needs to consume a drop of the water turned silver pearl. After refining it, they can survive for a certain period of time. After refining, can be used for a certain period of time, greatly reduces the damage from lightning strikes to demon bodies. Do you think these water sources are valued by those demon beasts? However, the cultivation world knows about this item. Humans don't really use it much. The Baiyiziji Palace has a very unique cold attribute cultivation method. When I traveled through the Great Jin years ago, I also had conflicts with the high-level cultivators in their palace. Therefore, at that time, this item was mentioned, and it is said that every 1,000 years or so, some high-level demon beasts within the Great Jin territory will gather at the Beiming Ice Island where the Ziji Palace is located, attacking the Baiyiziji Palace. The goal is to force the cultivators in the palace to release some cold water. Is that really the case? Han Li found it a bit hard to believe. What's so strange about that? Without Han Sui, they would likely face a dead end in the tribulation. If they were lucky enough to obtain a drop of Han Sui, the chances of successfully overcoming the lightning tribulation would increase significantly. How could they not give it their all? Moreover, every time this happens, those old monsters in the corner would also take the initiative to lead the charge. Even if the attack fails, these demon beasts wouldn't suffer significant losses. It's just the Baiyiziji Palace. It will also take the lead in this matter. Even if the attack fails, these demon beasts won't suffer any significant damage. It's just that the Northern Night Little Rooster, inheriting the ancient divine powers, several have been passed down since ancient times. Entering the Great Formation is no small feat, especially since this is right above the cold eye of the Tianyuanyin vein. The icy cold spans a radius of 10,000 miles. The bone-chilling cold can kill without a trace. There are no requirements for practicing cold and heat techniques. Once you step into this island, almost half of your energy is used to fend off the cold's invasion. It's simply impossible to exert power and compete with the little Jigong from Bai. Therefore, even though it requires cultivation, every time they charge in with great momentum, they have never truly conquered Baiming Island. However, this forest is also incredibly precious. How did that guy you eliminated get it? Take a look at this small bottle. Does it have any special markings? After the Great Eye God explained to Han Li, there was still some confusion about the markings. There's a snowflake pattern at the bottom of this small bottle. I wonder if this counts as a marking. Han Li's expression shifted. She reached out and touched the bottom of the bottle, saying, "Then it must be right. This is indeed the mark of Baiming Island. It seems this is the poor cold water of Little Jigong. But how did it end up in the hands of someone at the early stage of Yuanying, just casually placed into a storage bag? That's a bit strange. It seems like the Great Eye Spirit is pondering the complexities within. In this world, there are all sorts of bizarre things. It's impossible for them not to happen. Perhaps this item was stolen from the North Underworld Island by someone. Or it could simply be a modification from the North Underworld Island itself. After defecting, it coincidentally fell into that person's hands. All of these are possible. But you just said that this essence can only be used as auxiliary materials for refining magical tools and elixirs. If that's the case, why would the Northeast sect go to such lengths to confront significant beasts over this item? Wouldn't it be easier to just hand it over? After pondering for a moment, Han Li frowned and asked, "Aren't there already some cultivators who are aware of this and have questions about it?" "Yes, but the official statement from the Little G Palace is that it's to suppress the existence of level 8 demon beasts and above in the cultivation world, to maintain stability in the greater cultivation realm. Otherwise, this tiny vial of water could easily give rise to dozens of level 8 demon beasts. This power is enough to disrupt the balance of the major sword sects, is enough to disrupt the balance of the major sword factions, thus causing great chaos. However, this kind of statement can only fool some ordinary people. That little monk who fought with me back then had a respectable status. He seemed to be a wealthy princess, because he spoke disrespectfully. After I defeated him in the duel and killed him, I treated him well with the soul-searching technique. As a result, I inadvertently obtained a secret about Han, the secret kiss of Marrow." The big-eyed deity paused here. His voice faltered for a moment. It seemed he was reminiscing about something. Miwen Hanley raised her eyebrows with interest. She became quite intrigued. Indeed, if it weren't for seeing this Han Marrow, I would have almost forgotten about it entirely. This matter, probably only a few high-ranking members of the Baishajigong know about it. Others are completely unaware. In fact, besides being used as materials for refining che and pills, the main function of Han water is to serve as the primary ingredient for the ancient medicinal Returning Yang Water. Returning Yang Water is what can bring bones back to flesh, infinitely repairing the body. Han Li gasped in shock. Startled? Yes. It is said that no matter how severely the body is injured, even if it is completely shattered, just by applying this miraculous medicine to the wounds, one can instantly return to their original state. Some even claim that this medicine has the miraculous effect of bringing the dead back to life. Of course, these are just rumors. No one knows the truth. But one thing is recognized by all texts, that is the revitalizing water has the extraordinary effect of prolonging the life of cultivators, and can extend the lifespan of ordinary cultivators by a quarter. You know what this implies, right? The great deity said lightly. This means that some cultivators, who are at the late stage, have a chance to advance. The reason being that those at the late stage of cultivation have a great possibility of entering the divine transformation stage. He then let out a breath, and murmured, of course, this water is just one of the main ingredients for refining the revitalizing true water. If one wants to truly refine this water, other ingredients are also necessary. But the sun gold fire from the depths of the molten lava is absolutely essential. Only with the water refined using magnetic fire can it be called the yin-yang harmonizer, capable of refining the revitalizing water. Otherwise, it would just be a waste of this item. The big-eyed deity said meaningfully. Where can you find this thing called solar golden fire? Not to mention ordinary refining. How long can it last beneath 10,000 feet of lava? What are the chances of this fire forming in the molten lava? Once the solar golden fire is formed, just like the Changling, it disappears without a trace in the lava. How can one possibly capture it? Moreover, even if I had the porcelain fire, without the formula for returning to the amniotic fluid, it would be pointless. Han Li said with a hint of self-deprecation. The great deity fell silent. After a while, he slowly spoke up. There's nothing I can do about the sun going through fire. But I do have the formula here. Did fellow Taoist Han forget? The little princess of the minor deity I secretly killed back then. The formula is precisely recorded in her divine stone. I thought it was somewhat rare at the time, so I jotted it down casually. If you truly want to refine this spiritual medicine, I can provide it for you. You have this formula, senior. That's just wonderful. Then I'll keep it for now. Maybe it will come in handy in the future. Han Li was taken aback by the great deity's words, then filled with surprise and joy. With the return of the sheep needle water, his chances of advancing to the artifact naturally increased significantly. That sun gold fire is simply not something we can capture in this generation. I advise you not to place too much hope on this. Otherwise, the Northern Leaf Little Jigong's embellishment, and the legendary Great Power's embellishments, only this formula and water have been around for so many years. Why has it never been refined into this tomb water? The big-eyed Divine Lord said calmly. Then, without waiting for Han Li to say anything, a piece of light yellow material flew out from the bamboo tube. He actually managed to copy the return oxygen water formula in such a short time. Thank you, senior. I'm just being cautious, just in case. Han Li grabbed the sword in his hand. He chuckled and replied, your snow crystal ball, since it is also made from 10,000-year dark jade. If it can absorb the tree's dripping sweat, it could greatly enhance the spiritual nature and particles of this treasure. But don't forget, the big-eyed Divine Lord reminded once more. Then feeling that he had said enough for today, he fell silent. Han Li raised an eyebrow slightly. He would have done the same even if the big-eyed Divine Lord hadn't mentioned it. He fell silent after that. Han Li raised an eyebrow slightly. Even if the great deity hadn't mentioned it, he would have done the same. However, there is one thing that Han Li is still curious about. The chill emitted by this sweat is so terrifying. I wonder if it can be absorbed and fused with the child of the Luo flame. Would that enhance the power of the Luo flame? With such thoughts in mind, Han Li poured the silver pearl from the jade butterfly back into the small bottle. He then casually spread his fingers. Suddenly, a hazy flame appeared in his hand. With one hand, a purple fireball instantly transformed into a layer of delicate light wood, sealing the bottle's opening. Then, with his other hand, he made a decisive gesture, murmuring incantation softly. Suddenly, a flash of purple brilliance appeared as he recited the spell. The threads of flames began to spin on their own, growing more and more urgent, faster and faster. Moments later, a silvery, radiant chill slowly emerged from the bottle's opening. It was a dreamlike brilliance. Han Li let out a low exclamation, raising his hand to cast a youthful spell. With a tremor from the Mu Yixi Nat spell, it transformed back into a fireball the size of a fist. With that chill tightly wrapped inside, that wisp of cold air was tightly wrapped within, sealed tight. Afterwards, Han Li raised his hand to put the small bottle back on. With the other hand, he waved at the purple fireball. In a flash, the fireball shot straight towards Han Li. To everyone's surprise, Han Li opened his mouth and directly swallowed the purple fireball along with the silver chill into his stomach. Then he sat down cross-legged on the ground, slowly closing his eyes. At this moment, at Han Li's Danshan, the 2-inch size opened its eyes, clear as crystal, and in front of him, the purple fireball was slowly rotating. Inside, a silver orb was flickering continuously. He blinked his eyes. Immediately, he pinched a seal with his small hand. A greenish light burst forth from his body. Waves of spells shot out from his hands. The purple fireball exploded, igniting the area. The silver orb inside also transformed into silver flames, intertwining and merging with the purple flames. Meanwhile, Han Li's main body remained expressionless, completely immersed in meditation, not moving at all. Han Li stayed in the room for a whole day and night. Although he was an ordinary person at the door, he still knew a bit about cultivating immortality while in the Daoist sect. This matter vaguely hinted at Han Li's identity. Therefore, during this time, no one disturbed Han Li. When Han Li finally opened his eyes in the room, a hint of confusion crossed her face. The coldness in the water seemed to have no effect at all. This logic was indeed a fiery fusion. It seems, this thing can only be used as material now. I might as well refine the snow crystal pearl again. Han Li murmured helplessly. She immediately opened her mouth. Suddenly, with a soft sound, a crystal-clear pearl was spat out from her mouth. It floated a few feet in front of her. Looking at the mist before her, Han Li raised a hand. The small bottle containing water appeared in her palm. Her fingers brushed over the bottle cap, which flew open by itself. With her other hand, she quickly slapped the bottom of the bottle. Instantly, a drop of silver pearl shot out from the bottle, vanishing into the snow crystal pearl without a trace. Han Li didn't say much, her hands pinching and digging. She opened her mouth again, breathing out a wisp of blue smoke and fire. In an instant, it enveloped the pearl. It quickly ignited. Calmly watching the pearl in the flames, Han Li closed her eyes once more. With a heavy heart, I closed my eyes again. Reforge this pearl. It won't take much time before the grand auction begins. Enough to finish refining the snow crystal pearl. With this thought in mind, he manipulated a wisp of smoke with his mind, starting to condense the mist before him bit by bit. Just as Han Li focused on refining the magic tool, in a corner of the imperial city in the northern region, within a magnificent mansion, a young man dressed in a thin blue robe stood in a stone pavilion, hands clasped behind his back, admiring the exotic flowers and plants outside. With a look of contentment on his face, suddenly, the expression of this person shifted. His face abruptly turned, revealing his true appearance. His features bore a striking resemblance to Han Li, about 70% alike. The only difference was, this person had a pair of cold, emotionless eyes. At that moment, footsteps could be heard approaching from the entrance of the garden. Then, an unrelated old man appeared there. As he raised his hand, he happened to meet the young man's bright, sparkling gaze. He couldn't help but shiver, startled in his heart. Fortunately, the cold light in the young man's eyes retracted, immediately becoming ordinary again, and he said faintly, "Who am I?" "It turns out to be you. Friend Yun. Are you here looking for Han?" "Elder Han has been busy lately. We have planted spies in the extraction method. A piece of news has come in. Perhaps Elder Han would be interested." The old man in the black crown chuckled twice. He walked over. "You know the news. I've never been interested in outdoor knowledge. I'm not responsible for any specific matters. If you have something you want me to handle, just let Elder Yu tell me." This year, I turned my head back again, staring at a bouquet in front of the stone pavilion. He said coldly, "Heh, if it were something else, naturally, I wouldn't disturb you," with a modest demeanor. "But this news is related to you, my friend." The old man didn't care about the giant's distant attitude from 1,000 miles away. Instead, he said with deep meaning, "It concerns me. Have you found that person?" The young man paused for a moment. His eyes narrowed. With a regretful expression, he said, "Indeed, we do have news about this person. It is said that some modifications from the Yingluo sect, suddenly, in several places in Jincheng, quietly searching for this person. This is the portrait of the person they sent out, and the person Elder Han mentioned should be the same person, right? But Elder Han still needs to see it for himself." The old man raised a hand, and a white jade scissors flew out from his sleeve. The young man from Qingshan gloomily reached out and pulled the scissors into his hand. The divine stone immediately immersed inside. After carefully scanning it, it was indeed him. No doubt about it. "Is there any news on why the Yingluo sect is looking for him?" The young man's muscles twitched on his face, and after quickly pulling out the divine stone, he calmly asked if there was still no news. However, Since the Yingluo sect is in the capital, all the elders from the Yuanying lineage suddenly gathered together. I wonder if it has anything to do with this person. Elder Han, you mentioned that this person shares your name, and is a great enemy of yours, and you had your clan help you find this person. Therefore, the second elder has already decided that this person will be handled by Han Shang, no matter what methods Elder Han uses to deal with this person, as long as this person does not interfere with the normal proceedings of the grand auction, it will be fine. After all, at this auction, the Yi family has a few items they must secure. Elder Yi doesn't want any unexpected incidents. The old man said calmly, HMPH, as long as I can get accurate information from this person, I'll make sure he disappears from this world. However, I wonder how many pieces of demonic energy the clan has managed to gather for me. I will join the royal family to serve your Yi family, but under this condition? Elder Han from the county snorted coldly. Rest assured, regarding the matter of the artifacts, we have already been keeping an eye on the whereabouts of these items. Didn't we already help our friend find one earlier? As for the rest of the demonic energy, it's a bit tricky. It will take some more time. The old man explained without changing his expression. I don't care how you help me find the demonic energy. I've served the Yi family for 20 years. After 20 years, I must see. The promised pieces of demonic energy must be in Han's hands. Elder Han's lips twitched. He said with a flash of light in his eyes. Naturally, since our Yi family promised Elder Han, we will definitely not go back on our word. Elder Han, you should rest for now. As soon as I have accurate news about that person, I will inform you immediately. Some unrelated old folks are laughing and crying as if nothing happened. With a smile, he clasped his fists. Finally, he took his leave. The young man watched the old man's figure disappear from the garden gate. He sneered coldly. Then he remembered something and lightly shook his robe. A golden light flashed, and a small sword suddenly appeared in his hand. The small sword was entangled with black threads from tree roots, yet it still bounced energetically. It looked like it wanted to break free, but these black threads were of unknown origin. No matter how the golden sword struggled, it remained firmly attached. It was tightly bound. The young man furrowed his brows. Suddenly, he opened his mouth, and a mouthful of black blood spurted out, splattering the golden sword all over. The golden sword let out a mournful cry, and its brilliance immediately dimmed. However, it still stubbornly hummed softly. What a hassle! A human borrowing a sword, yet it's still so hard to erase its spirit. If it weren't for the fact that I valued this sword, it's made from thunder bamboo. Why go through such trouble this year? He whispered a few words with difficulty. A hint of impatience flashed across his face. But since your master has already arrived in the capital, this is indeed a rare opportunity. As long as we eliminate him, not only can we destroy the main soul, but it will also prevent me from regaining my full powers. The flying sword will instantly become a lost item. Recovering it will be easy, the young man said, a fierce look flashing across his face. Deep in his pupils, a hint of black and purple shimmered. It was blinding. Suddenly, he became ghostly and enchanting. At the same time, in a secluded corner of the Attican feuding, two men and a woman were sitting at a round table, discussing something. One of them was the old man in a black crown, who had just returned from the young man. The other man was a middle-aged person with a stern appearance, wearing a jade belt. The woman was the stunning lady who had appeared before in the Huangqing officials' Taoist crown. However, at this moment, her expression was serious, listening to the old man in the black crown recounting the process of talking with the youth. So, Elder Han agreed immediately. The middle-aged man with the square face listened to the old man's words and said thoughtfully, "That's right." And when Elder Han heard about this namesake, although he didn't show too much excitement, the killing intent in his eyes was definitely real. It seems that what he said indicates a deep grudge with that person. That must be true. The old man Wu said this. But these two not only have the same name, they even look quite similar. And that Han Li, not long ago, infiltrated our royal family and resided among the royal relatives and officials. I wonder what his purpose is. Is he targeting our Yu family? Now he is being seriously investigated by the Yingluo sect. I always feel a bit uneasy about this, the wealthy beauty said with a frown. Of course, there are things we don't know inside. But why should we care about so many things? As long as Elder Han is an undercover agent sent by Buddhist or Taoist sects and can fully assist the Yi family in accomplishing great things, we don't need to be distracted. We shouldn't dig into everything. This Elder Han not only has strong cultivation. This Elder Han, who always sought the root of everything, not only had formidable cultivation. The ancient stories and events are something I know quite a bit about. They will be an essential assistant for our journey in a few years. Before that, we must do everything we can to win this person over. Additionally, we should be extra cautious of anyone sharing the same name as Elder Han. The fact that the Ying Luo sect treats this matter so seriously indicates that there's something extraordinary about it. Since we can't be sure whether this person is targeting the Yi family, if the opportunity arises, we should still send someone to assist Elder Han in eliminating this person as soon as possible. The square-faced elder gently patted the side of his ceremonial staff and said in a deep voice, "Elder's words are reasonable. However, this Elder Han seems a bit peculiar. I can't shake the feeling that he's hiding his true strength from us, and the fact that we're helping him gather demonic energy with such a harmful artifact makes it hard to understand his true intentions. I believe we should also remain vigilant against this person." The elder in the black hat suddenly spoke up, saying, "Brother Wei naturally understands this. Aside from our own Yi family and the new elders, I won't trust any outsiders, and I definitely won't reveal our true plans to them. Brother Yu Yi, you can rest assured. Right now, the key is this auction. There are a few items we need to secure. We must not let other forces find out. It's us who will be bidding. Otherwise, they might either take action to sabotage us, or deduce one or two parts of our plan from these materials. We can't let that happen. So this time, you all must arrange this properly. There must be no mistakes. If we miss this auction, we won't be able to gather all the materials to forge those magical artifacts. Our treasure hunting expedition in a few years won't go smoothly." The square-faced elder instructed gravely. "Don't worry, uncle. This auction has been arranged flawlessly. All the bidders are just inconspicuous pawns we've already bought off. These pawns appear to have nothing to do with our Yu family on the surface. Moreover, once the first auction ends, these people will be silenced immediately. There won't be a whisper of information leaking out. How's it going with the Emperor on your side? What about Taiyi sect and Tianmo sect? Why did they suddenly send someone to the palace? But how was the Emperor handling things? The Tiny sect and the Heavenly Demon sect, why did they suddenly send someone to the palace? Liao Zhuangqing and the Seven Temples. Two old monsters have come to the palace. They haven't heard any rumors, have they?" The beautiful woman said hesitantly. The old man in the black crown also showed a look of concern. "You can rest assured. Big Brother has already investigated their intentions. It's about the treasure that the three crowns attracted. A few days ago, the three views have completed the final fusion of all components. This sound has already been perfected. These two families have many ears and eyes. Just from the little bit of information we deliberately leaked, they already vaguely know what we are refining. It's a treasure. Therefore, this time they are pressuring our Yu family, demanding that we sell this treasure to their two families. That's fine too. This way, the children will be in the open. My real plan won't be noticed by them. However, just to be safe, all the elders who know the plan must travel in pairs when going out recently. We can't be careless, or we might fall into the trap of these two old monsters. If they forcibly investigate our divine timing, it would be terrible, especially with the mysterious real person from the Heavenly Demon sect, who is skilled in various soul-manipulating secret arts. Even if the reasons and embellishments could lead to an accidental ambush, would involuntarily reveal." The muscles on the square-faced middle-aged man's face twitched at the people's reminders. "I see. That puts my mind at ease. But Ping Shangying is something we worked so hard to refine. Are we just going to give it away to these two?" The old man in the black hat said regretfully. "Give them a bargain? How is that possible? If only one of them had come to us, we might not have been able to withstand the pressure, and would have had to accept it reluctantly. But now that there are two, there's naturally room to take advantage of the situation. My brother already has a plan. Even if Ping Shangying can't stay in our hands, it won't be so easy for it to fall into their hands." The square-faced middle-aged man let out a sneer of mockery. The old man in the black hat and the beautiful woman exchanged glances. A moment of confusion, but they also didn't pursue the matter further. So after chatting for a while longer, the three parted ways and left. Time passed day by day, and before long, the day of the grand auction arrived. During this time, despite Luo Zong's search for Han Li's whereabouts, they only found other places, such as inns and some embellishments near the capital, gathering spots. Han Li was focused on cultivating the snow crystal ball in the Dao Hall, and hadn't gone out even once, so naturally, they found nothing. Early that day, Han Li changed his appearance, transforming into a burly man with a dark face, and also turned the bamboo tube on his back into a long sword, then floated away from the Dao Hall, heading straight toward the nearby Western-style area. Along the way, he practiced his breathing techniques, lowering his cultivation to the early stage, to avoid drawing too much attention. As a result, just as he thought, the closer he got to the Western-style area, the more he sensed the high-level cultivation energy around him, mainly at the early stage, but there were also quite a few at the foundation stage. As for low-level cultivators, they were few and far between. It seemed that those with a bit of wealth were not willing to miss this grand auction. Once Hunley passed through the restricted area, he also entered the Western-style area, and immediately noticed that the entire street was filled with cultivators of various appearances. Among them were many people dressed in extravagant styles. However, he glanced around and noticed a few grim-looking figures in black robes, constantly scanning those entering. One of the men was unmistakably Zhe Tianhao, but for some reason, the Azure Sanus was not present. Hanli frowned slightly. However, he pretended not to notice and walked towards the main hall, not giving these black-robed figures a second glance. But as soon as he lifted his leg and took 2 steps, a faint aura of a divine stone swept over him. After a quick scan, it left without finding anything. It moved towards another newly appeared figure from the Yadan stage. This use of divine stones to scan those entering was not something every visitor experienced. Only those with unfamiliar faces, who looked like they were either casual cultivators or had suspicious identities, faced such scrutiny. Those high-ranking cultivators from other sects were completely ignored. Their secretive use of divine stones was fine for those at the Yadan stage, as the other party couldn't detect it, so naturally, there would be no reaction. The other party couldn't detect this action. Naturally, there would be no reaction. But several reasons led to this situation. Once I entered this way, I encountered this matter. Naturally, I was filled with rage, glaring coldly at those from the Yin Luo sect. Fortunately, the people from the Yin Luo sect had no intention of provoking any trouble. After the divine stones swept by, there were no further actions taken. This left the higher-level scattered cultivators feeling dissatisfied, but they wouldn't actually provoke the Yin Luo sect because of it. Such a major demonic sect could only leave unhappily like Han Li. However, the elder heard that this person is skilled in disguise and transformation techniques. Staying here like this is probably useless. An elderly man with triangular eyes from the Yin sect saw that they had gained nothing. He couldn't help but feel a bit dissatisfied. I asked a few senior brothers to act this way, just to stir things up and scare the snake. I never intended to find this person right away using this method. This person has considerable abilities. We have no good way to see through his true form, but searching for him so aggressively, he might already be panicking inside. He could reveal some flaw. Even if this person can keep calm and show no signs of weakness, you don't need to worry. The service personnel have some connections with the Heavenly Demon sect. Lin Dao has already gone to borrow the wonderful sound mirror from his friend in the Heavenly Demon sect. He is currently focusing on the series at his residence. It should be able to be used freely in just 2 or 3 days. I can find this person easily now. Even if I can't, it will make him let his guard down. Once we get to the last couple of days of the auction, under this kind of pressure, that person will have nowhere to hide. We can swiftly take him down without a sound. Zhe Tianhao glanced at the old man with the triangular eyes, and said lightly, I see. I said there's an elder in the sect, who's supposed to be infallible. How could he possibly do something so useless? If that's the case, we wouldn't even need the sect leader. We could just take him down ourselves. That would earn us great merit in the sect. The old man with the triangular eyes lit up, and he said excitedly, let's hope so. Zhe Tianhao chuckled dryly, forgetting about the direction of the treasure light hall. The guy we're dealing with this time looks like a tough character. The reason behind the sect's involvement is that even the 4 elders at the mid-level might lose their lives at his hands. It won't be that easy to handle. It's not surprising if any unexpected incidents occur. It's better to be extra cautious. Zhe Tianhao thought to himself quietly, his expression darkening. At this moment, Hanli was already standing in front of the huge stone hall he had seen that day. Before him stood the magnificent Hall of Treasures. At this moment, the hall was completely enveloped in a layer of 5-colored light, giving it an extraordinarily mysterious appearance. What surprised Hanli was that above the Hall of Treasures, there was actually another single-story hall made of white stone. Although it was slightly smaller, only 1/3 the size of the one below, it still spanned hundreds of feet in the air. Definitely a colossal presence. In front of Hanli, a Huangshan attendant was respectfully explaining something to him. At this moment, Hanli no longer exuded the aura of a Yuanying stage cultivator. The attendant responsible for the auction reception, although seeming somewhat indifferent towards Hanli, did not dare to show any signs of disrespect. In front of the store, There were other attendants dressed similarly, also serving some high-level cultivators of the Huiyang stage. As for the Jidan stage cultivators, they could only obediently walk to the stone tablet in front of the large store, reading what was written on it. The auction for the Huiyang stage was moved to the hall of the 9 heavens above. I could only obediently walk to the front of the large store, in front of a stone tablet. I looked at what was written on it. The auction of Yuanyingji was moved to the 9 heavens hall above. The final auction will still be held at the Bagwang store. Additionally, for the Yuanyingji auction, each person must pay 1,000. For the final auction, each person must pay 100 to enter. We didn't say anything wrong, did we? After half-time, Hanli shifted her gaze. She glanced at the attendant in front of her. She said lightly, "Senior, please see clearly." Indeed, that's the case. This time, the auction has 3 times more embellishments than in previous years. Therefore, we had to urgently borrow this temporary medical facility from the Tianji Pavilion. Additionally, these snacks must be paid for. The regulations are the same as in previous years, mainly to prevent the auction from becoming too crowded. We had to resort to this method to control the number of attendees at the auction, etc. However, with a senior of such status, these snacks naturally wouldn't be of concern. Otherwise, if anyone could freely enter the store, even if the venue were 10 times larger, it still wouldn't be able to accommodate everyone. The Huangshan embellisher smiled and said, 1,000 snacks. You really know how to rake in the snacks. But just like you said, as long as I can bid on something I'm satisfied with, I won't mind these snacks at all. I naturally won't be interested in the final auction. I want to participate in the Yuanying level auction. I naturally wouldn't be interested in the regular auction. I want to participate in the Yuanying level auction. Just lift your hand with ease. $10 for some snacks in between. Tossed into the embrace of Huangshan's beauty.